Knowledge of the truth sets us free. Truth is a very elusive concept for me for very long. If you were to be asked what is truth, then most probably we'll get not just one answer. If you talk about knowing the truth and that will set you free, we often think, what does that mean? I think if one interprets it from a Christian perspective, it might also mean that Christ, Him being called the truth, or Him being the truth, if you know Him, then you will be set free. And I think that is very true. Because it says He is the way, the truth, and the life. So if you know Him, you know the truth. And if you know the truth, you will be set free. In terms of just living life, and this is my theory to understand truth, I look at truth as three distinct things. The one is what I call factual truth. And the other one is what I currently call spiritual truth. Factual truth is the truth that this is water. It is the truth that we can observe with our physical senses. I can see this is water. I can hear this is some kind of liquid which we call water. I can drink it and taste that this is water. It is factually discernible or observable with my 5 physical senses. This is a table. We somehow came to the conclusion that wherever we are in the world, whoever we are, whatever language we speak, we will refer to this thing as a table. If you take it to Japan, they've got a word for table, which is not T-A-B-L-E. Whatever that word is, it will refer to this thing. Or if you take it to France, then they will tell you, no, this is a table. Or if you take it to third world countries, if you take it to Bolivia, they will tell you this is a table. They might just say it in Spanish maybe. But they will refer to this as a table. So there is this thing amongst us that we agree to say the factual truth we can agree on. This is a table, this is water, this is a cup, these are glasses, this is a laptop, etc. That is one part of truth which we cannot deny. Because it's the truth, isn't it? That this is a chair. Then one gets spiritual truth that is not observable or measurable with our physical senses. It is a truth that exists without us having this ability to see it necessarily, or to smell it, or to taste it, or to touch it, or to hear it. We can't measure that truth, but it is a truth. Sometimes we can measure the result of that truth, but not the truth itself. Let me give you maybe an understandable spiritual truth. Is gravity. We can measure the result of gravity and say this thing is heavy. But I can't, where is gravity? How deep is it? How long is it? What color is it? How wide is it? What does it weigh? Can't measure it. But the fact that I can't measure it or observe it with my natural senses doesn't make it not to be a truth. It is a truth. There's some other spiritual truths that you believe in. Maybe you believe that Jesus is the Messiah. That is a spiritual truth which you can't prove via physical means, as you can prove things on the level of factual truth. But they are equally true, irrespective. Now sometimes this poses a dilemma in our lives. Let me first go here. Where are you sitting now? Where are you sitting?
At the table.
Okay. In this classroom? Yes. And you also? You too.
She's not sitting in the chair.
You can say that too. She's sitting on the chair at this table in this classroom. Now, that sounds quite accurate. Is there a script, you're a Christian? Is there a scripture verse that says you are seated in heavenly places with Christ Jesus at the right hand of God? Okay, so where are you sitting? That's not what you said a minute ago. You said you sat here. Okay. You get the point. That's the factual truth. The spiritual truth is she's seated in heavenly places. She sits on a different plane, different space. But that is not that easily observable. But it doesn't negate it, cancel it, or take it away that she's also seated in heavenly places. It's just not that observable, and we're just not that aware of it. So, you can be seated at two places at once. Is that true? That's very paradoxical. A paradox says that two things that are on the opposite ends of a scale are equally true at any given moment. So as much as you are seated here, in this place, in this room, on that chair, at this table, you are also seated at a different place. The one is not more true than the other. If one can get it right to balance it, if you can balance a paradox, it means something good. If you get it right to balance a paradox, you're getting some things right that most people can't get right. So the factual truth, you are seated here, the spiritual truth, you are seated in the heavenly places, are equally true at one point in time. It is now true that you are seated here, and it's now true that you are seated in heavenly places. Now that might be an easy example. Let me give you a more complex example of a paradox. Or let me give you mine. Spiritual truth which I believe is that Jesus heals all infirmities, sicknesses, disabilities, etc. That is a spiritual truth in which I personally believe. I will have paradigm paralysis if you try to convince me otherwise. That means you will not get it right to convince me otherwise. You can try, but rather go for a beer. You'll use your time in a better way. Trying to convince me that that is not true is not going to bring you anywhere with me. I'm just going to frustrate you. In my physical reality, maybe I've mentioned it, I've got two blind sons that are mentally retarded. They can't sit, speak, walk. Very small children. One is 19, one is 9. That is factually true. If I were to deny that fact, they will die. Because I could say, no, I don't have those sons. Eventually they will die because someone has to feed them and change their nappies, etc. So I have two blind sons. I sincerely believe Jesus heals all infirmities, sickness, disabilities, etc. If I were imbalanced in this paradox, and I was from time to time on different places imbalanced in this paradox, if I just look at this truth, I would stop to believe this truth. If I would just to look at the factual truth of my two blind sons, I would stop believing that Jesus can heal. Because if I were just to look at that side, ignoring this side, and then you come and convince me that Jesus can heal and say, okay, kom na my huis toe, kom bid vir my seuns as jy nou glo dat hy kan hulle genees. It's easily a trap in which most of us can fall. And most probably from time to time we are there. That we start to deny one of the truths because paradoxically they are so opposed to one another, and depending on the one on which I focus the most, the other one will not be as strong or weigh as much to me as this one on which I focus. So from time to time in my life it was like this. I have two blind sons. Jesus can't heal. Can't. If he can, here's his opportunity to show it to me. And then there were times that I denied this. I just needed to confess long enough that Jesus can heal, and eventually this will not be a truth anymore, but this will be the only truth. And I've been there as well. Just confess enough that this is going to happen, and then eventually it's going to happen. And I think I did confess a lot, more than anyone sitting in this room, that my children are not blind, but they are. This is where the third truth that I believe is the truth comes in to help us balance these two truths if they are paradoxically so far removed from one another that we can't find balance in our understanding, or that we find ourselves, we just want to choose one or the other side. This remains always something you and I should understand. It's not either or, it's both and more. It's not, yes, I have two blind sons, so Jesus can't heal, or it's not, yes, Jesus can heal, my two sons are not blind anymore. It's not either or, it's both and more. But to find that, we have to move into the third truth, Jesus, because He is truth. If I stand in Him, if I wrestle with Him, if I take my brokenness to Him, if I take my disappointment to Him, then I can find balance between the two. It's the only place on planet Earth where one can stand, where you can experience balance when you're confronted with a paradox. There are many things for the normal Christian that lies on this level, that they want to go and just embrace one of the sides because it's so overwhelming real for them. And then when you do that, you come out of sync, out of balance. The only way in which one can find balance on this planet is in Him. There's no other place. I propagate it as if it should be true for you. It shouldn't be true for you per se. I'm just saying for me. There's no other place where I can stand to find balance between these extreme differences between the blind children I have and the Jesus that I believe heals. But when I'm in Him, it's like this. When I'm not in Him, it's like this. And then I'm going to fall over eventually. There are many things in the Christian mind that could be resolved with understanding this. Because sometimes you are in a difficult spot in life, let's say economically, in terms of financial position or provision. And then you get stuck on this side. And then you ask questions and say, why, where is He? Huh? Waar is Hy? Hoekom help Hy my nie? Hy kan maar sien ek kry swaar. Hoekom voorsien Hy nie vir my nie? Then you got stuck in the factual truth of your situation. Remember, the factual truth never negates the spiritual truth. Your awareness of the spiritual truth is very low, and your belief in the spiritual truth is very low, but it doesn't take the spiritual truth away if the factual truth becomes overwhelming for some reason. Does it make sense what I'm talking about? You're going through a divorce. On the factual level, that is quite a challenging scenario to deal with. On the spiritual truth, you want to cling to the fact that God restores, and He makes whole, and He heals, and He brings together, and what He has put together no man can separate. And then this becomes so overwhelming that you cancel this. And you're just human, and that's fine. The paradox is just too difficult to integrate in yourself. That's why we need Him. Jesus. If we stand in Him, then you're still sitting with the factual truth of brokenness. I still sit with the factual truth of two blind sons. And I still believe He heals. And you would say, you're crazy. I say, yeah, I am. Anyone that stands in Him consistently becomes crazy, according to the definition of this world. I think sometimes it can help us to unlock some things in our lives if we understand that. Just to know that, when the one becomes very difficult to handle on the factual level, on the physical level, on the natural level, the other one doesn't go away. It's still there, the other reality. We are so real in saying that we are actually seated in this room, like you said. It's so real. It's absolutely 100% accurately correct. But it's 1/3 of the complete truth, because complete truth includes all of this. Not just the one or the other. It's not either or, but both or more. It's not this or that. It's both and more. We wrestle with life. I've wrestled with finances in my life. Yes, man. Because I'm not a greedy kind of person that chases money. I chase the excitement of doing something for someone. And therefore, I've done too many things, I think, for free. And therefore, financially it was difficult. And then I would accuse Him of not looking after me, because my factual reality is overwhelmingly disturbing or difficult to handle. But as you grow older, obviously you understand that if you remain in Him and He remains in you, then He has been taking care of you. He has looked after you. It might have not been according to your expectation or to the way that you thought it should have happened, but He did take care of you. It might be the experience that I did go through a valley of the shadow of death, but you were with me. You didn't spare me the shadow or the valley of the shadow of death, but you were with me when I went through that. Because what life can throw at you might be very difficult to handle. This is the key in life. Not for everyone, because not everyone understands that, but certainly for some people in this room, and certainly for me. If I remain in Him, just get back to Him and say, okay, yeah, I've wrestled with this and don't know where to go with this, and I don't know what to make of this, but let me just come back and have a nice chat with you. And then I'm in Him again, and then those things that are opposing start to make sense again. They start to be not so throwing me off balance all the time, leaning to the one or the other side. Knowledge of the truth sets us free.